You could ask, if you wanted to about dating and stuff. I'm happy to answer that. Just know, like, specific.
How just
shut up.
Tell me the scoop.
That's so funny.
Welcome back to the Sobriety Diaries, friends. I'm your host, Nate Kelly, best-selling author and founder of PodStudio. More about that in today's show notes. Let's cut to the chase. I'm so excited for today's conversation. She's back. If you want to check our first conversation all the way back in season 1, I think it's episode 21. Tiffany Jenkins, author, comedian, content creator, speaker, most recently on stage, hosting the Cheer Choice Awards. I want to talk about that. Welcome, Tiffany. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be back here with you.
I know.
What season are you on now?
This is season 5.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And as an alcoholic who tends to quit things and run from things, like this is the first like well-established project that I've been committed to. And I'm as shocked as you are that we're on episode like 120. I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh. I'm not shocked. I'm just so happy for you. And you know what's so funny is when I think of brand, this is going to sound so weird and probably be the most random compliment
I love
you've
random.
ever received. Okay. But when I think of like branding, because I've always wanted to brand myself, I'm like, you need colors and design so that people can associate it with you and what you're doing. I thought you have done such a freaking amazing job.
Really?
I think of you every single time I think about your colors, like your neon.
Yeah.
Purple and pink, blue. I think of you every time. I know it's so random, but at least twice a week.
That means so much. Thank you.
Yes, you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Also, I'm just now drinking coffee, so I don't know if that even made sense.
Yeah. I don't have enough yet. Usually I'm over caffeinated, but I had kind of a hectic morning. So we'll see how this, could be a totally different show here in 20 minutes or so.
Well, cheers.
But cheers. Yes, exactly. So we kind of dove into, your personal story and things on our first chat. So I kind of wanted to, take a different spin and catch up on things that have been happening in your life and maybe talk about, in recovery, life still happens, right? Things are happening in our lives. Relationships change. Shit hits the fan, however you want to put it. But I think, a sign of our recovery or our spiritual fitness, as I hear in the room sometimes, is how we handle those things. All of that to say, you have had some changes in your personal life, and I want to kind of touch base and see how you've been handling those and what kind of life has thrown at you recently.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because this is the first podcast that I've been a guest on since my divorce, I want to say.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, please forgive me. I feel like such a jerk. Somebody, I was just on someone's podcast. They're like, wait, lady, did that mean nothing to you? But I don't talk about this part of my recovery. As far as recovery is concerned, after this past year, I haven't had a chance really to talk about it on anyone's podcast. So I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. So I apologize in advance.
Hey there, future podcaster. I'm Nate Kelly, and today I'm thrilled to introduce you to something that is going to transform your podcasting journey. Are you ready to turn your passion for podcasting into a thriving reality? Let me introduce you to the Podcast Launch Accelerator. Imagine a 6-month mentorship program where you get personalized one-on-one coaching, an action plan tailored to your goals, and a comprehensive podcast growth blueprint. But wait, there's more. We're throwing in exclusive interviews with industry experts, a professional podcast success toolkit, and access to our monetization masterclass. At the end of 6 months, we guarantee you a spot in the top 10% appearance on top iTunes or Spotify charts, and a monetized podcast with host Red Ads. Ready to launch your podcast? Click the link below to secure your spot in the Podcast Launch Accelerator.
Well, almost exactly a year ago, I got divorced from my husband, who people have probably seen in videos of mine. We've done a few videos together and vlogs. We got divorced, and I've been through deaths in recovery, births, marriage. I've been through so many things in recovery, and divorce was the most mind effy thing I've ever been through.
Wow. I've heard people, equate it to a death. Did you feel like that or more?
Yeah. Death, I could see why people would compare it, because in essence, you're kind of mourning a life that will never exist, a life that you had envisioned a million times and pictured a future. It doesn't exist anymore. So you have to adjust. And some things occurred in my marriage that led to the decision. And it was so hard, especially when you're the one kind of initiating it, because you question yourself. Is this the right thing for us? Am I betraying my vows? Am I messing up my kids?
The kids, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
The toughest.
Yes.
Was it hard for you to understand like the role you played in it? Because we talk about that in recovery too, like understanding how we contributed to a situation or how it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at first, I was not, I felt like none of it was my fault. Everything that had happened wasn't my fault. And I had been screwed over. But then we tried to work things out for about 6 months. We went to counseling and therapy and everything. And I realized, we just weren't meant to be together. And because of that, we tried the best that we could, and we got along great. And he'll always be one of my best friends. But inside, I was always depressed, and I was always sick and miserable. And it wasn't his fault. It's just that I wasn't aligned with what I was supposed to be doing in life. And I could feel it in my soul. And so once I started acknowledging, I kind of was miserable to be around. I did complain a lot. I was whiny and catastrophizing. I have, all kinds of anxiety issues, generalized anxiety disorder. I have a lot of different kinds of OCD. And to be with me wasn't as easy as I thought it was. Like, I thought I was a catch and anybody would be lucky to have me. But then after everything and reflecting, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a lot of work. I'm a high emotional needs person. Somebody has to be willing to dedicate a lot of time to making sure like I'm okay. Anyway, moral of the story is, as hard as it is, yes, eventually I was able to take a look at my part in it. But it's easy in the beginning, to point fingers and blame. But through counseling, they kind of shined a light on my shit too. Can I say shit? Or
you can say shit. You can say whatever. Fuck it.
Perfect. Okay, good.
So, if I remember correctly, when we talked before, there was sort of this humor to the way that you guys got together in the beginning, almost like a tongue-in-cheek, met in a sober living, I think, or do you think maybe you just hadn't done the work yet or weren't ready, or, did those feelings come back like, oh, this just wasn't meant to be. We got into it too quickly and the kids came and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to say that. I really do, because in a way, it feels like it's discounting the 10 years of marriage to say we rushed into it and stuck around for the wrong reasons, because truthfully, it wasn't until much later in the marriage that those thoughts occurred. Like, wait, maybe we did kind of rush into this and we aren't meant to be. But in the beginning, I got pregnant while living in a halfway house and he was living in a halfway house, and we decided to get married, and we ended up getting married 5 months after knowing each other. Obviously, we rushed things a little bit. But I thought the whole time, I'm like, look at us. We're beating the odds. We're surviving. We got lucky. And now, you know, it's always in hindsight, you look back and you're like, wow, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I just had a deep thought. Sorry. I got lost because I was like, wow.
You got me on one too. I was paused thinking, you know, are we ever, or are we always working towards something? Which, wow, that may be a totally, that's its own conversation. I feel like that's pretty deep, but I'm happy. It's a weird situation. I'm happy that you've recognized that, and you know, you are now in this new chapter of your life, and you're working on that. You know, as a child of divorced parents, you know, I would say that I realized that my parents were, you know, not meant to be together either, and that created
at a young age.
At a young age, yeah. Probably 8, 9, 10. They got divorced when I was 10. And I remember feeling relieved about it. You know,
really?
So, yeah.
Well, see, it's tough for me because him and I never fought in front of the kids. We never did anything in front of them that would lead them to believe we were anything other than completely in love with each other. Okay. And so it definitely came as like a shock for them, I would say. But we framed it in a way that was super fun. I mean, we tried the best we could anyway. Like, guess what? Daddy's got his own house.
Daddy, that's what my parents did. You've got 2 houses now.
You get 2 Christmases. Yeah. And we tried. But the thing is, we're both so much happier now. And so he has moved on with somebody. And I tried really hard not to like her in the beginning, because I felt like she was kind of taking my place, and I was super jealous. She's so beautiful. She's one of those women that you look at and you're like, you son of a bitch. How dare you be so gorgeous?
God.
Yeah, everything that I'm not, and everything I always saw him having is what so anyway, I tried not to like her, but then I ended up falling in love with her myself. She's incredible. We talk all the time. If I could handpick somebody to be a part of my kid's life, it would be her. He did really good. And if he ever breaks up with her, him and I are going to have beef because she has my stamp of approval.
That's another thing when, you know, younger kids are in the picture and your parents are dating, you know, there's this chance that they do get super attached, you know, to the new person in the picture. I think dating as a parent is this next level, you know, it's like you're dating the family too.
Yes. It's so, it's tough because it's very important that, in my opinion, you know, people aren't coming in and out and the kids aren't getting attached to people and then having to say goodbye. And so that was a huge fear of mine with her, because he didn't wait very long to introduce the kids. And I'm like, that is irresponsible and selfish. And you know, those were all my thoughts, but they're still together all this time. Like they got together shortly after the divorce, which was why I was like, oh, we're going to fight. But then she ended up being great, and they're still together. And she loves my kids, and her and I talk all the time. And what's cool is we work together as a unit. So like if him and her are having issues with one of the kids, I'll show up at the damn house and set it straight. Like I'm on their team. We're working together as a team to love you guys and raise you. It's not this house versus my house. I'll pull up. And we are in this together. But it was really tough navigating those emotions and staying sober in the beginning, truthfully, because I was so out of control shortly after the divorce. So out of control of my emotions that there were times where I truly thought I needed to be checked into a psych ward. And I would have gladly gone because I couldn't get my shit together. I couldn't get my thoughts together. All the things that I learned in recovery over the years went out the window, all my coping mechanisms, because I was experiencing feelings and things that I had never experienced before. And I wasn't mentally strong enough to cope.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because we do experience these new, different feelings for the first time when getting sober, and we work through them. But this new feeling now, what, 11 years sober? How?
In November, it'll be 12.
So, so a new
11
feeling.
and a half.
Wow. Good for you.
Thanks. But yeah, I also just realized my Winnie the Pooh pants are showing. I apologize. I don't want to make it like I didn't take this seriously because
this is a morning coffee chat.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. It was very weird in the beginning to have the kids be like, Daddy was rubbing, we'll call her Gemma. Daddy was rubbing Gemma's shoulders. Gemma brushes my hair so much softer than you do. And every time that would happen, it felt like I was getting stabbed in the abdomen because I had to just smile and be like, is she better at brushing, motherfucker? Good for her. Yeah, it was all very new. It was all very tough. My friends, I have the best friends. I'll tell you what, I don't have a lot of friends, but the friends I do have are incredible. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have survived. They were on standby.
It's quality, not quantity, right? In friendships.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like in adulthood. I realize so much more about life. And it truly is quality, not quantity.
And being in recovery, not to brag, but I feel like some of the best friends are in recovery because those people, they know what it's like to be taken advantage of. They know what it's like to take advantage of other people. And then they know what it's like to have someone reach their hand down and help pull them out of whatever they were in. And usually people like you and I, whenever somebody helps pull us out of a dark hole, we want to turn around and do the same thing, like your podcast, for example.
Yeah.
And so to have these people in my life who I could call and be like, hey, can you please talk me out of dyeing my hair green and getting 7 tattoos on my nipples, please? Like, and they would be there when I needed it because my thoughts couldn't be trusted.
I put the house up for sale today, and
I've begun a career as a painter. I live in the forest now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember a TikTok where maybe like the trolls were trolling and people were posting. Did you feel pressured to like make this announcement or like say something about your relationship on TikTok? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yes, you are, because people were like, hey, something's missing.
Okay.
Like, where's your mans?
Yeah.
Well, why are you crying all the time?
Okay.
I'm just kidding. So I'll be honest, since my divorce, I've barely made any content. And I think that's why I haven't been on anyone's podcast, because I haven't been doing what I was known for. But when you have your spark put out, that's how I felt at the time. Like my spark was snuffed out and I had to learn to relight it. But I just had this epiphany the other day. The person that I was, that everybody fell in love with from Juggling the Jenkins, that person does not exist and never will again. I feel like a part of me died that year when my life fell apart. And I have watched old videos of mine, and the idea of even emulating them makes me cringe. Like, I just want to separate myself from that other broken, sad version of myself because I don't feel funny right now. So it's hard to pretend to be funny. And I don't know. I'm on like a weird, I almost picture it like when everything happened, I was sent up into a spiral and I'm still kind of like flipping around and I'm not sure where I'm going to land or where I'm meant to land, but I'm looking for something else, somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think, that we evolve, right? We learn, we grow in our careers and our content and what we're comfortable doing. I think, hearing that you were in such a dark place, but putting out this humorous, content, or I feel like you kind of just want to be a truer version of yourself now. And I think, I mean, the content you are putting out, the podcast, Tiff and Flip shows great. I think it shows like a vulnerability to you that I've never seen before. I think certainly people are relating to it, based on the YouTube channel and things that I've seen. So has doing that show helped kind of bring you down a little from the spiral? Or let's talk about Tiff
Oh
and Flip
yeah.
for a minute.
Thank you. That's really nice. This show, me and Flip have been talking about doing it. He's been talking about doing it for years. He invited me to do it and I turned it down. Well, I just never wrote back to him because I was so overwhelmed. And then there was one.
Flip a family friend, or you met him in recovery, or?
I met him in recovery. He's married to my best friend.
Oh, I love it.
And we've always been close, but he loves talking. And so there was one day where I was at a kid's birthday party and I had heard that my ex-husband was going to a football game with his new girlfriend. And I just went in the bathroom and cried. Like, it sent me over the edge.
This was before we loved Gemma. Clearly.
Yeah, this was before we loved Gemma. This is when we were going to throw hands. And I came out of the bathroom crying, and Flip's like, "Are you ready to start the podcast?" And I'm like, "No, look at me." And he's like, "Exactly. Now would be the perfect time." And I'm like, I can't even breathe. And he's like, "Let's do it. I'm coming over tonight." And he came over that night and we recorded episode 1 in the midst of my breakdown. And ever since then, it has been so healing for me to be able to still be out connecting with the audience, but in a way that feels true and genuine to me. Yeah. We're just having conversations. It's not scripted. It's not a skit. It's not me trying so hard to be relatable to people and do the same thing that everybody else is doing.
Right.
It's just sitting down with a friend and talking about shit that's relevant to my life. And I love it. But the problem is, I don't know if you can feel this, but is it weird to you that people just like sit and listen to your podcast?
Yes. I forget sometimes that like so many people hear it, which I think is a good thing, because if I really think about it, I think then the vulnerability comes away a little bit. But that is the beauty. I think podcasting is really unmatched in the way that you can create relationships and create this sort of connection to your audience that you really can't, with a 10-second TikTok or, a get ready with me with Halloween makeup or.
Yeah, who does that?
Who does that? Whatever it may be, but that's the beauty. I love podcasting. And yes, I totally agree.
It's hard for me to comprehend sometimes because I don't know. I guess it's that imposter syndrome thing where it's like, I don't sit around listening to other podcasts usually. Do you listen to other podcasts?
Not so much anymore. I started because I was such a huge fan of podcasting and kind of, what I just said, how I related to the hosts and whatnot. But now being kind of on the inside and knowing all, like I'm listening for like the equalization of the voices and the intro and outro music. And I'm too critical. So I don't as much anymore.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. It's not enjoyable for me anymore.
Do you ever do editing?
Tons of it.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And that's the side of it that people don't see is they think you're just sitting there talking and raking in money and stuff. Right. But it's like the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is so much work. Like I'll put 6 hours into editing a day.
Yes.
and I get
Yeah,
obsessive.
this conversation turns into, a good full day for me with editing the episode, creating usually 2 to 3 clips, graphics, quotes, marketing stuff to throw up. And then the perfectionist comes out in me and, I do a re-edit and whatnot. So it is lots of work. I am still obsessed. One of my favorite memoirs, isn't it? High Achiever's a memoir, right?
Yeah.
That's classic. Okay, yeah. Still really important in my recovery. I revisit it maybe like once a year. It's like top of my bookshelf.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I recommend like whenever somebody asks me for like a recovery resource or like what's your favorite book or do you read Quit Lit or whatever, it's always the book that I mention.
Oh my
God. I again could be making this up. I thought I read or heard you say somewhere that you're writing another book.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay.
I am. And it's so tough because I published the first one, High Achiever, which thank you so much, by the way. That makes my heart so happy. I just can't express how grateful I am, truly.
God's honest truth.
It's one of those things again. Like I can't believe it.
I know, right.
I just can't believe it. But yeah. So I self-published it myself, and then it was picked up by a publishing company, and everybody heard about it. A lot of people really like it. It's in jails and rehabs and stuff. And so they're like, second book, we want a second book. The freaking pressure, dude, of the second book, forget it. I've written 8 versions, and I'm like, it's not good enough. Like a mad scientist crumpling paper and throwing it in the corner of the room.
I've put my entire brain into the fucking first book. What do you want from me?
What do you want from me? And not to mention, I had the entire thing done, and I submitted it to the publishing company, and then the story changed. And was no longer the happy ending that I was about to publish.
Right.
And so I'm like, I cannot put this out there. It's a lie. My main character is not who I thought they were. Like everything has changed.
Can't we just change like chapter 10 and 11? Or no, it doesn't work like that.
That's a great question. And at first that's what I was going to do. But the whole arc of the book was, never lose hope. People can stand the test of time. And then we didn't. And then the time exploded and time was tested and we failed. And so I had to it just became a completely different story.
Yeah.
It became a completely different story. So I'm working on it now, but it'll be out hopefully summer of 2025.
Sounds good. Well, you know who will be first in line for the pre-sale.
Is it you with your finger? I'll just send you a copy as a thank you.
Thanks so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something inspiring and that resonates with you. If you're an aspiring podcaster or have your own message to share, head over to podcastnate.com and book a discovery call. I have helped countless aspiring podcasters to launch their show and share their message, and I'd be honored to help you do the same. Remember, everyone has a story. Yours could help save a life. Make sure you subscribe to the Sobriety Diaries so you never miss an upload. We're back with new episodes every Wednesday. Bye, everyone.